Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun today because we're going to be talking about a subject that we have talked about before with other guests, but this time we're going to put a different slant on it. So that's what's going to be so much fun about this. I love the fact that, look, we color coordinated our outfits. Isn't this cool? You know, we look great here. So please join me in welcoming Luana Riviera to our program today. Welcome, Luana. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you, Deb. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this. So best-selling author, speaker, and orchestrator of daring publicity campaigns, Luana Riviera helps coaches and entrepreneurs to connect with a larger audience. If you have something you want everyone to see and talk about, or a great idea you want to develop, Luana will help you to rise to the top of your game and become the influencer on everyone's lips. With appearances on programs including shows on Fox TV, ITV, BBC, and Channel 4, Luana is as comfortable in front of the camera as she is in a one-on-one situation. After becoming one of Forbes' top 21 emerging females to watch in 2018, she developed relationships with many media outlets, including NBC, ABC, the Miami Herald, and Huffington Post. Her latest book, Game of Phones, is the first in a 3-part series and is set for release later in 2020. The first book of the trilogy is a lighthearted yet practical guide to aligning yourself with the leadership mindset in order to create your very own online kingdom. The subtle Game of Thrones theme appeals to fans of the book and TV show, as well as aspiring writers and fantasy fans. Luana is an international speaker who mixes inspirational wisdom and advice with contemporary culture and a healthy dose of humor. When she's not on stage or on the phone to a client, she can be found in Portugal or currently in the UK, setting up a sustainable animal. In Portugal, she is setting up a sustainable animal sanctuary. Somehow she finds the time to play the occasional twisted psycho in a horror movie. We might have to ask about that. She also has 2 daughters and spends a lot of time shouting at them to put their socks on. So again, please join me in welcoming Luana Riviera. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know, this really is something that we're going to have so much fun talking about. And as I mentioned to you before we started the program, we have been talking about the importance of influencers in marketing. But from the perspective of hiring someone to be that influencer for you. And we talked about the fact that we're really not talking about the Kardashians or, you know, some major sports star, but we're talking about someone that people can relate to. And, you know, and as I was talking to those guests, I was also thinking, well, now what if I want to do that? What if I want to be an influencer? What if I want to be the spokesperson for my company without being a spokesperson? You know, and so I love the fact that we have you on to talk about this today, because that really is what we're going to talk about. But first, let's go. You know, I always take people back in the Wayback Machine. How is it that you discovered that this is your passion in life?
Do you know what? I actually fell into this. It definitely wasn't something I ever saw coming. It was like one thing led to another. So I started off dancing. I always wanted to be a dancer, and I had very little confidence, very low self-worth. I was very shy. But on stage, I came alive. I absolutely loved the stage.
Else.
Well, yeah, and I just got lost and I expressed myself and it was fantastic. But I wasn't confident enough to be going for these dance roles. And so what I did, Deb, was I feel like nothing's ever wasted, but I feel like I wasted a decade of my life where I was turning away from what I was being called to do. I was not listening to that voice calling me to something bigger. I was backing away from it.
Right.
And I was blocking it out through partying. I was partying very, very hard and doing little else. And I was in victim mentality and blaming the world for everything. Then I got pregnant.
Oh.
And of course, my party days were over. So, do you know, I was told as well that I couldn't have kids. So it was such a shock. And I was so happy.
Right.
And yeah, so I stopped my partying and the voice kept calling me to do more, and I decided to go into acting. Now, I had done training in acting at the same time as my training in dancing. So I thought I would go and refresh myself, and I went to the local acting school, and I was told I just didn't have it. And that it was pointless for me to carry on. And I asked, well, what is this it?
Excuse me?
What is this it? And how do I find it? And they said, oh, no, you just don't have it. So I opened up my own acting school. And I promised myself that nobody would ever be told such a thing. And, you know, I'd audition people to come into the acting school, and I'd tell them they're not ready. And I'd tell them why they're not ready, and then I'd invite them back again into the future. But not a single person would we turn away and say, no, you've got no hope. So this acting school, it exploded. It absolutely exploded, way beyond anything that I'd thought of. And before I knew it, I had 4 venues in the UK. I was killing it. And it was quite surprising. And so what that allowed me to do was to fulfill my lifelong dream, which was to build an animal sanctuary, as you just said in your intro there. So off I went to Portugal. I left the business behind. And at this time, I also had some pretty crazy stuff going on in my marriage. Now, I was talking to a journalist one day about a film I was in. The story that came out the next day was not about this film.
Oh no.
It was all about my personal life.
Oh.
Now, I could have stopped the story. Right. What I did was I made a little slip, and I could have taken it back, and I could have requested for it to be off the record. I thought, nah, let's see what happens here. What happened was absolute mayhem. I was well used to being in the media, but I was not prepared for this. I'm talking journalists and producers knocking on my door. I'm talking, people constantly looking through the window. I'm talking not being able to go to the shop. It went international. It was in the US. It was in Australia. It was all over Europe. It was everywhere. And my marriage broke up. And I was confused, and I was in pain, and I wanted everything to stop. Right. And I had just been on a national documentary, and now the press wanted to talk to me about this documentary, and I couldn't handle it. So I ran off to Portugal on my mission to set up this sanctuary. I wanted peace, and I wanted tranquility. Well, basically, I lived in a ditch for 3 months. That's what I did.
Sometimes
I learned. Sometimes you just got to go live in a ditch. So we had no power, no internet, no running water. We bathed and, got our drinking water from the local river. It was a fantastic experience. And, it was all by choice. It was challenging. It was winter. It wasn't summer. But, my business over in the UK, well, that was thriving, that was still doing great. And I wasn't even there. So I thought, well, this is fantastic. I'm going to write a book about it.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book called Passion to Freedom, set up a course alongside. I didn't do any marketing for this book or for for my course, I mean. I just promoted the book. People came through the book and then they came into my course. I
Mhm.
thought, well, this is great.
Right.
Um, now, I'm just going to backtrack a little because I learned a very, very important lesson as all of this was unfolding. And this is a big thing that took me into wanting to help people to get more visible, because there's a lot more to it than just booking media appearances.
Right.
What I learned was that if you do what I did and you run off and, you know, the media wants to run with a story and you say, I don't want to talk about that, I'm just going to run away. Do you know what? And you'll know this anyway, Deb. They're going to print it anyway. They're going to go with the story anyway, but you lose your input.
Right.
So
and you'll
they
find
will.
other people to say things.
There we go. There we go. So I desperately didn't want this story to go out. I just, you know, it was painful.
Right.
But the story went out, but it didn't have my input in it because I didn't talk to the press. And some pretty wild things were in the headlines the next day, and, you know, whatever. But I just wanted to share that because that is one of the big things that made me go niche down. So I started off, you know, running this course, helping people to get freedom into their businesses, as I had done. But one of my modules was around books and another was around media. And I found I did not want to stop talking about that. And the module was supposed to be a week. I think it ended up being for about 4 weeks because I was like, oh, but there's more I want to talk about. There's more I want to cover. So that's when I decided to niche down. So I started off with helping people to write books. I always assumed that business owners were already getting themselves into the media and that they knew all of this stuff. But no, they weren't. So then I decided to go into the media, and there we go. That's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. So it's been a bit of a crazy journey, but there we go.
I love it. You know, and most people have to go through, you know, something to figure out, hey, this is what we want to do. And unfortunately, yours was painful. You know, but what you said is so true. You know, if we don't tell our own story, good and bad, somebody else will tell it for us.
Yes.
You know, and we talk about that a lot on this program because I work with a lot of people regarding social media and you know, at least once a week when we're not in quarantine and lockdown and we're like actually out doing business, which is, you know, we are recording this as we're on lockdown. So things are a little bit different for, you know, as to what's going on. But, you know, when we're out, you know, and I will have business owners that come up to me and they say, you know, we're not going to be on social media. We're not going to be on Facebook. We're not going to be anywhere because people might say something bad about us. And I always, you know, I understand their fears, but, you know, I always look at them and I say, well, they're going to say something bad about you, whether you're there or not. And don't you want the opportunity to fix it? You know, and whether it's responding to a negative Yelp review or, you know, somebody trashed your business on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or all of these various things, that conversation is happening. And so it's so important to be part of that conversation. You know, but then of course people are like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Now, you know, it is of course much easier if they're just typing a response. You know, you still have to, there are obviously ways to do it, ways to not do it. And that's how I work with people. But in many cases, it is actually getting in front of things like a camera or talking to a reporter. And so I love that that's how you work with people because that's, oh my heavens, you know, my background is training people in media relations. And that is a terribly scary thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you. And I had a huge hate campaign launched against me a couple of years ago. So I've really gone through this and it's terrifying. And your first reaction is to want to hide. You want to run away and hide, but you can't. You don't want to
talk about it.
You've got to do the opposite. And I did that initially. I ran and I hid. And I had hate groups being launched against me. I had all of these accusations. She's a scammer. She's lied about this. And I didn't know how to handle it. And I wish that I'd had somebody at that point to talk me through it. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So I hid for a bit, and then I came to my senses. And what I did was I actually spoke to the national press in the UK, and they ran a story on it where I was advising other people on how to deal with this kind of thing. And that's when I decided to stand up and say, hey, I've had enough of this. I'm going to shine light on it. I'm going to be open about what's happening, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show everything that I've got to back up my truth.
Right.
So that's exactly what I did. So what, you know, when they were saying, oh, she's lied about this, like I had accusation, oh, she's lied about being in Forbes, well, here's the article, you know. So I was very, I shone a light on it, and I wrote for the Huffington Post about it as well, you know, with the angle of helping other people. I found this sudden strength. They knocked me down for a while, and then I found the strength to come back fighting. And I agree with you so much on that. Never ever hide away. You know, if you're on social media and there's a silly little troll just being silly, you know, by all means, just block them. You don't have to entertain everybody. But if it's somebody really trying to damage your reputation, you've got to stand up for yourself.
Well, and it's interesting. I actually was having this conversation with somebody earlier this week where they were saying, you know, if a reporter calls, we want to get all their questions and then we'll respond. And I said, you know what? 10 years ago, that worked. It doesn't anymore because they're under the gun, you know, to get things out quickly. And I said, but here's the thing to remember. For the most part, they want to get it right. They don't want to mislead. They're not doing an expose, you know, and you know, and all these various things. And even if it's something that potentially could be negative, they still want to get the story right.
Yeah.
Years ago,
they're not out to get you.
Yeah. You know, and because if they get it wrong, it's their reputation.
Exactly.
You know, and so I shared this story with them that years ago, I worked for the American Cancer Society. And we had, I did their media relations for the Denver, Colorado area. And one of the local television reporters called. Now, she was one of those people that was as professional and upstanding as possible. I mean, you know, she was just, you know, but she did the expose type of stories, but they were always very well researched. I mean, you know, they were correct in their information. And so she called and said, you know, hi, this is, and you know, and of course my almost immediate response was to hang up. Well, of course I didn't. You know, it was like, oh no, can't do that. But you know, she said, you know, here's something that has come to light in our investigation of you. You know, here, and what she said was, you know, they discovered that the American Cancer Society had invested in Philip Morris stock. Well, of course, Philip Morris is one of the biggest tobacco manufacturers that there is.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, as I'm trying to not go, you know, I said, okay, you know, and now, granted, this is more than 20 years ago. So, you know, we didn't have the, oh my gosh, we have to respond immediately because, you know, the type of thing. So we did have time to respond. And, you know, and so I asked her, I said, okay, you know, what is your deadline? You know, and all of it. And so I got all of her information. And then I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off. And we discovered that, yes, indeed, we did have investments that we shouldn't have. And of course, what had happened was we told this very nice investment person, make money, and then didn't follow up and see, you know, what was being invested in. So we immediately divested of the stock, developed new policies, yada, yada, yada. I call her back and I say, okay, here's what we have done. You know, our CEO is ready to talk to you whenever you want to come down and interview him. And her response was, well, there's no story now. You know, and so she didn't do anything. But what happened was, you know, the nice thing was it fixed our policies.
Yes.
But you know, we responded in a way that, you know, we got our ducks back in a row. You know, and unfortunately now you don't always have that chance. So that's where you want to be prepared in advance, which is a lot of what you do is have people prepared so that if something good and bad, I mean, because
Yes.
let's be honest, good things happen just as much, and you want to be able to respond to that also.
Exactly. It sounds like that was really, really well handled. I think a lot of people get scared about something negative coming up, but just be open and honest.
Right.
And, there will be times as well where we all mess up every now and again, and then that's okay. And yeah, that's really, really interesting.
Right. And in the intro, I mentioned the fact that, we all think, well, maybe I should be the spokesperson without being a spokesperson. I'm saying spokesperson funny because that is kind of, the stuffed shirt that, I'm almost picturing, the attorney commercials. We are attorney so-and-so and we can help you. That doesn't convince anyone of anything, right?
Yeah.
And so what we want to be is an influencer. So tell us what your definition of an influencer is.
I'm glad that you asked that, because a lot of people that I speak to have this image about influencers just, taking these fancy photos on Instagram or whatever.
Right.
But when I
We
talk
think
about
of Kim
Instagram,
Kardashian and things
yeah,
like
that's
that.
it. But when I talk about influencers, I'm talking about anybody who has any sort of influence on people around them, and they don't have to have big numbers. It can be just a small group, but authors, entertainers, entrepreneurs, coaches, anybody who's creating an impact. And I really want to stress as well that the people who I tend to work with are the people who are real. That's the people that people want to connect to.
Right.
It's not enough. Exactly. Just like you were saying now about the suits and the spokesperson and all of that. People want to work with people. They want to be able to trust people. They want people to be real and to show who they truly are, their true personality, not to put on this mask and to be something that they're not. That's not enough anymore. Maybe it was a few years ago. It's not enough anymore. There's too much noise online. People want to connect now on a deeper level. Yeah.
Right. And as I mentioned, I've talked with other guests about working with influencers, and whether it's, in many cases, it's a local celebrity.
Yes.
So someone who has influence in the community. So, maybe it's the head of the Chamber of Commerce, something like that. But one of the things that you just mentioned that really struck home for me is the fact that, this is your business. You should be the person who is the face of that business, that influencer. But again, that's the scary part. I mean, even just thinking, oh my gosh, I have to write a Facebook post, let alone go on television or something like that. So how do you get people, first of all, how do you convince them that they need to be the true face of their business?
Do you know, if somebody really doesn't want to, I wouldn't be doing that convincing. But I see the benefits of it. People want a face. People want to know who they're buying from. It's not enough just to be a faceless company anymore. So, I would always say that, but I know that, I love all of this stuff anyway. I always have done. So but not everybody's the same. Some people prefer to be in the background. And in that case, maybe have somebody else who is happy to be the face of the company. But wherever possible, I really believe that it should be the founder of that business. And it's so and people tell themselves that they don't want to, but most of the time it's because they're scared. It's because they're scared. I'm going to tell you something now. Right. When I first started doing this and I decided, no, I'm going to stop being a faceless business and I'm going to stand up and show everybody who's behind this company. I was so scared, and I decided to do some videos. And bear in mind, I was already an actor. I was well used to being on screen. It took me 8 hours to do a simple 2-3 minute video.
Wow.
Now I can go on, no preparation. It's nothing. And I'm not talking that long ago. I'm talking 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't breathe. My heart was beating. My chest was closing up. I was absolutely terrified. So I get it. If somebody's scared about doing this stuff, it's because at the beginning it is scary. But you know what? You get over it, and then you build your confidence, and then you thrive.
Right.
And this is something I work with my clients on in the background as well. You know, we're constantly working on improving delivery and building confidence and all of that stuff as well.
Right. You know, but a lot of people, I mean, you mentioned fear. I mean, people are scared that others are going to judge them and that
Yes.
they're going to criticize them.
Yeah.
So how do you get people past that?
Do you know what? I would love to say, oh no, that won't happen. But that would be a big, big lie. You will be judged. You will be criticized. You need to be okay with that. You need to realize that the people who are going to judge and criticize, they're not your people. And we've got to get through these people to reach the people who are our people. You know, like I was saying before, there's so much noise in the outside, in the online world now. We've got to cut through that noise. And the way of doing that is by being strong in who we are, what we stand for, what we stand against, who we're talking to. And that means that people are not going to like us. That means people are not going to get us. And it means that the people who do get us, it means that they're drawn with us, drawn to us. And by being doing the opposite and being bland, nobody's going to hear our message. You know, we've got to cut through that noise. And yes, we will be judged. Yes, we will be criticized. Yes, it does hurt, but we've got to keep going. And you know, we build, don't we? We build strength. And after a while, we just learn to deal with it, and it just becomes like water off a duck's back. Do you know, we were talking about trolling earlier, and actually, it was about 2 years ago that hate campaign was, and I actually got somebody jumping in my Facebook Messenger only last night, and it was one of my faithful old trolls.
Oh no!
And he was. I was like, oh hi.
Anything else to do?
Yeah, in the middle of lockdown, right? Oh, what should we do now?
Yeah.
I know. Let's go annoy Luana. But a couple of years ago, that would have sent me to my knees. It would have knocked me off for at least a day. And it did go round in my head a little bit. As soon as I got the message, I just blocked them. I didn't engage. And it did go round in my head a little bit. And then I let it go. And that was it. I went to bed, and, you know, it didn't impact me in anywhere near the same way as it would have a while ago. But that's come from going through it and building tolerance and realizing that these people don't have power over me, you know, and why should they get my power? You know, they don't deserve it. My energy should go to the people who want to hear what I've got to say, to the people who do believe in me, you know, to the people who need my help. That's who should get my energy, not these silly little trolls.
Yeah, and the weird thing is there are always going to be haters who,
Always.
you know, and it's funny, now sometimes you can learn from them. I mean, you know, there are times where they're saying something that, you know, it's like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I do fidget too much on camera, or, you know, now I'm sure people are going, oh my God, look at her hair. Well, you know, my hairdresser's on lockdown too. You know, but at the same point, it's, as you said, it's giving them power or not.
Yeah.
You know, and even when you take what they say as you know, something that you might need to learn from, you're still not giving them that power, you know, and you know, and of course the bad part is when you let that little voice get in your head. And, you know, I've talked about that a lot with people, where we have that little voice that maybe started out as a parent, a teacher. You can't do this. You're not smart enough. You know, you're a girl. You know, I'm of that generation where people were like, you're going to college? What? No, you need to just get married, honey. Pat me on top of the head. And I'm like, and luckily I had and I still have a very strong mother who was like, no, you can do whatever you want to do. But, we all have those little voices in our head, whether we want to admit it or not. Those little voices are there. Even if that little voice is just saying, did I pick the right color shirt today? But then what happens is when we have outside kind of validation, I mean, I hate to say it that way, that says that's a horrible shirt or whatever, then that's where we really get going in that cycle. So, I love that you talk about, acknowledge it and then go on.
Yeah, 100%. And also it's realizing the difference as well with, what is trolling that's going to damage your reputation, or what is, somebody who's just being silly, who's probably sitting in his mum's basement eating a tub of Pringles covered in crumbs or whatever. It's realized. And sometimes people can post something that's a criticism, but they're not necessarily trolling. They're just sharing their opinion, and they might be rude, but I tell you something else.
We're trying to be helpful.
Yes.
You're not. You're being mean and nasty.
Yeah, they're the worst, aren't they? Because it's like, well, they're not that. They're putting on this mask of wanting to help, and they're giving unsolicited feedback, but really they're just being rude. They're the worst.
Because and of course the hard part is knowing when or if to engage. And I always tell people, you have to look at each one, because sometimes if you don't engage, it angers them and they go more, or other people jump on. Say it's a restaurant, and somebody posted, oh my gosh, I had a horrible experience there. And then the restaurant goes, no.
Then other people go, ooh, me too.
Oh yeah. And of course when you, and there are certainly very appropriate ways to engage. Of course, the first thing I tell people is to say, oh my gosh, we're sorry.
Exactly.
That's what most people want to hear, because then it's really hard to go back and pick at somebody if they've apologized, right? Because then you look like the petty, nasty person. And so, you apologize, you see if you can fix it. Sometimes you can't. One of my all-time favorite Yelp reviews, and this was so funny, was for a hotel. And I always look at those things if I haven't been to the hotel. And this person, said it was the noisiest place they'd ever stayed. When the bars let out, it was so noisy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, bars? And, and the hotel responded, and it was the funniest response in the world, because they did it kind of tongue in cheek, but they said,
brilliant.
Well, they said, you must have been, maybe you were in one of the bars, but our hotel is not surrounded by bars at all. It is surrounded by, by businesses. I mean, and so clearly they had the wrong hotel was what had happened.
Okay.
But the hotel kind of responded without saying, well, you idiot, so they didn't, they just said, oh my gosh, isn't this kind of funny? You must have the wrong hotel, because our hotel is surrounded by this business, and I mean, it was like a fast food place and a car dealership. I mean, no bars anywhere close by. Well, that person couldn't really respond. But yeah, the hotel took it, and they could have ignored it. I mean, I'm, because, and thought, well, that's not even us, but they responded and said, it's not us, and here's why. But they did it really funny. And so there are ways to respond to these things, but to come back to being the influencer, the thing is, when you've become that trusted person, when you respond, people really take what you say to heart.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And I think a big part as well of building trust is showing our more vulnerable side, and not pretending to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Show your human side. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she's in the fitness industry, and she had 2 different social media profiles, and I was saying to her, look, just have one, show
Right.
people your human side.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be all about business. And she was saying, oh, but but sometimes I post things that are really silly, and I'm like, show that silly side of yourself.
Well,
It's okay.
yeah, I mean, and of course there are some things you might not want people to see. So maybe you think, okay, should I really be posting it?
Yeah, exactly. But I was on both of her social media, so I knew what she was posting, and
Right.
I knew what I said to her was, if I was looking for somebody to help me with my fitness and I didn't know you,
Mm-hmm.
I would be attracted to the one you call your personal profile. I wouldn't be attracted to your
Because she's
business profile because
human.
it's bland.
Mm-hmm.
The voice, the tone and the voice is
Mm-hmm.
completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so big with showing personality, and I think it really helps build that trust as well. So that then, if something like that does happen, if people do try and spread rumors, oh, I've had all sorts, you talking about reviews just there, it reminded me of one that I had on. It's on my Facebook page. I think it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 1-star review from an old dance teacher
Oh,
who didn't like the fact that I changed my name. She took offense to the fact that I changed my name. So she wrote me a 1-star review. And
that's kind of an odd thing to do.
I know, it was absolutely bizarre. When I ran off to the ditch, as I was talking about earlier, I changed my first and last name because I wanted a transformation. My name reflected that, but she did not like that at all. So yeah, she wrote me a 1-star review based on the fact that I changed my name. I don't know what to say about that.
I know, and that's kind of, that probably would have been my response. Well, I'm not sure what to say.
I'm sorry for changing my name. Maybe I'll change it back just for you. I don't know what to say.
And that's
funny.
the funny thing is, people will find the funniest things to criticize, and you're like,
if
really?
they want to find something, they'll find something,
Right.
won't they?
Right. And there are times where I want to say to them, that's pretty petty. You just were looking for something, right? And there are those people. Back to, say, a restaurant review. Food might be fabulous, the service might be fabulous, and so you'll get something like, the salt and pepper shakers didn't match. Okay. That's, none of them do in the whole place. I mean, but yeah, it's like, well, then, why bother? And of course, the trick to all of this is to take the higher ground when we respond.
Always, yes.
And even though you want to say, you idiot,
yes,
say it in your head, tell the cat, all of these things, but don't respond and be petty. And that's what I tell my clients.
Exactly. Remove emotion.
Yeah.
Remove emotion, be the bigger person always.
Right. And again, if you have built up kind of this bank of trust with people, the funny thing is they'll know that in your head you went, most people would have, right? But you have their trust. And even if you had maybe even gone a little down that road, they might have been with you. But yeah, take that high road. When long ago, when I was doing media training, and there was no such thing as Facebook, none of this existed. And, we always were taught that you never picked a fight with a reporter, because you never picked a fight with somebody who bought ink by the barrel. And of course, what we meant was, they can write as much in their newspaper as they want, and you can't stop it. So don't pick a fight with that person.
Yeah.
And so don't pick the fight with the person who has 1 million followers on Facebook.
Yes.
Or, all these various things, or even is just, the leader in the community. Because that's sometimes what'll happen is, that'll be who says something about you. And so just don't pick the fight. And take the higher ground, even if it means that you can't respond right away because you're so annoyed.
breathe first. But on that note as well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this is an important point. We were talking about earlier how people are scared to be seen, but actually it gives you so much strength, because if there's a silly little troll with a couple of, with just a few followers, and then you've got lots of followers, you can reach more people. And this is something I found during my hate campaign against me as well, is that they were spending, I don't know how long, but all day, every day, messaging people individually and doing all this stuff. I swear I was a full-time job for them. I really
and
should
you wonder,
be.
what the heck? What had you done to them?
But then, of course, all I had to do to stop it all was talk to one reporter and write one article. And I got my message out there to hundreds of thousands of people all at once. You know, so it gives us power as well.
And then anything else that they did was just petty, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, when you've stopped it appropriately and nicely, you know, and not gone down into the gutter with them, even though you went, you really, really went to
in my head I was screaming.
You know, you know, but yeah, I mean, it stops them, because then they do look petty and nasty. You know, and it's funny, I've shared on here before that you know, I never do this. And that little voice in my head was telling me, stop. Somebody said something on Facebook that I took exception to. Personally. I mean, something personally about me.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And, you know, I was like, really? And so I responded. And I should have just let it go. But I responded nicely. I mean, there was, you know, no bad language, no nasty, no petty. He responded even worse.
Ooh.
And that little voice in my head was still saying, stop, go away, get away from the keyboard. And the other little voice in me said, right. Now, so I responded again. Again, I still took the high road, you know, all of these various things. He responded a third time. So clearly this was, you know, but of course I could have stopped it by not responding in the first place, you know, but yeah, so he responded a third time. And we had already moved to Atlanta from Denver. And so my response, because of course I still couldn't let it go. I mean, you know, I'm like, can't let this go, just can't let this go. So my response was, this has been so much fun. I can't wait to get together with you when I'm back in Denver, and I'll treat for coffee. Well, then what could he say? I mean, you know, and so I shut him down. Now, should it gone that far? No, I should have never responded to the first one, but I did always keep it above board. And it's funny because I still have people who, I mean, this was 5-6 years ago at least, who remember that and think badly of him.
Yes.
And, you know, and they're like, you know, you tried to be nice. You tried to, you know, and he kept, and, you know, and I thought, you know what, dude, you made it worse yourself.
Exactly.
But
exactly. People would have seen how you responded, and they would have thought, okay, you know, they would have been able to see right through it. And I've had similar as well. I like to have fun with them sometimes. I do. Not in a nasty way, you know, I'll never be mean, but sometimes if I'm feeling like having some fun, then I might do. And I remember there was this guy, this is really silly, but he called me a shoe. So I photoshopped a picture of my face onto a shoe, and, you know, just had some really silly fun. But then lots of people started joining in, and, you know, there was no nastiness. It was just
because then people are like,
real silliness.
You should be this type of shoe, or you should be.
You can imagine how it went, and there was about 200 and something comments, and people still talk about it to this day. People still say, "Do you remember that guy who called you a shoe?" I don't understand.
And so then you're thinking, okay, was it a typo?
I don't know.
You know, and you know, and of course, what we really want to happen is we want you, as you said, other people to chime in. You know, we don't want to have to respond at all. To say, I'm, you know, no, you know, this is not true. We want our raving fans.
And they do.
Respond, you know,
and they do.
Yeah. And that's where being that influencer and being that trusted source of information has really come fruition, because you've built relationships with people and they know, okay, no, Luana is not like that. And we're going to say it.
Yes.
You know, and that's, and it's just like with advertising, you know, if I see an ad for something, I'm like, yeah, right, it's an ad. if a third party unbiased says something, we're like, oh, okay, I'm going to believe them.
Yeah.
You know, and so again, you know, if I defend myself, of course I'm going to defend myself. But if somebody
Yeah.
else defends me, then it's like, okay, yeah, this is much better.
It means so much when people do that. I've had instances where people have said something, and you know, people I don't even know sometimes
Right.
have been commenting and saying, no, this isn't true because, and it's, you know, it's brought a tear to my eye because I'm like, oh.
Right.
And I never forget who they are, you know, and I'll always message them back, and I take screenshots, and you know, I just, it's an amazing feeling, isn't it? You know, when people go out of their way to defend you, it's lovely.
Yeah, and especially because there was no reason for them to. You know,
This is what I mean. I mean, sometimes it is people I've worked with, but other times it's been people who I've never spoken to.
Right. Yeah, and they're your fans, but that's because they trust you.
Yeah, and that comes with building that relationship and proving, you know, constantly showing proof that you are the real deal. Because let's be honest here, there are people out there who claim to be something that they're not. So we've got to go the extra way to prove that we are the real deal, that we do walk the walk, that we don't just talk about something and then go off and do something differently, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, and we see it backfire on people, you know, where a sports figure would be, you know, a great example of this, where the sports figure is the big family man.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we see pictures of them with, you know, spouse, kidlets, dog, all of these various things. And then a story comes out about them partying.
Yes.
You know, and so right there, you know, all of that goodwill that they've built up is jeopardized. You know, you know, and but it, you know, if people got the impression to start with that it was kind of fake, you know, then they're much more likely to believe the other story. But that does bring me back to what I was talking about at the very start, and it's the people that, you know, and most people are going to say, I don't want to be out there. I know it's important. I don't want to be out there. Okay, I know it's important, so I'm going to be out there. So they come to you and they say, okay, help me. And one of the things that you do is you have an impact system. Yes. And that's kind of an acronym. So talk to us a little bit about what that is.
Stands for internal. So that's the internal work. This is what gets you from, I don't want to do this, to shining your light bright and having the strength to deal with whatever happens as a result of it, you know, and having the strength to become the best version of yourself and to keep pushing forward. That's internal. The M stands for media, getting into mainstream media. Yeah, because, you know, that's another layer of building trust. We can shout about what we do. As we've just been talking about, it's more powerful when other people are saying things about positive things about us than when it's somebody who's already in the public eye or a recognizable brand. When they're saying things about us, it's like, wow, so incredibly powerful. P is for publishing a book. If you run a business and you haven't yet published a book, do so. Don't talk yourself out of it. Get writing. I promise you, you know, it will be worth the effort. Or have it ghostwritten, you know. Not everybody writes their own books. That's okay. It's still your own work. And the act in impact is literally for acting. So, you know, we've touched on the fact that my background comes from acting. And I can honestly say that without that acting background, I would not be doing any of the things that I'm doing now, you know. I've even brought acting into book writing. Like my formula around book writing is developed through acting. I use acting techniques before coming on interviews such as this one. I use acting techniques if I'm feeling... if I'm having an off day, if I'm before I came on this interview today, I was feeling very, I mean, I moved countries last week and I was in the middle of the
pandemic. Oi.
Yeah. Empty flights. I was feeling drained, you know, And I was like, no, I need to bring out my performer, you know, I need to bring out the badass version of myself. Acting, there's a big misconception around acting. People think that it's hiding behind a character, but actually it's drawing out that very, very real part of yourself and amplifying that to suit the situation. So, you know, had I not done that preparation and turned up like just how I felt, so I'd be like, hi Deb, you know, that wouldn't have made a good interview at all, would it? So that's what I mean by acting, and not just for interview situations, but for any situation where we're working, sales calls, you know, going and doing videos, live streams, whatever, working with clients. We need to tap into that version of ourselves that's going to do that in the most effective way. So yeah, that's the impact system.
Yeah, and I love the acting portion, because a big part of that is being prepared. You know, actors are prepared. They know their lines.
Always.
You know, they and you know when they don't. I mean, you know, and so, you know, that is a big part of it is, you know, for your business, you have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, we've all seen people that are interviewed who you ask them a question and you get deer in headlights. You know, for a simple question. I mean, you know, there are times where somebody can be thrown by a question, but you know, when they're thrown by a question that they should know, that's what is always bad. And so, you know, it's just part of that preparation to, you know, if you're getting ready to talk about your product, okay, you better know everything about your product, good and bad, because the reporter will have done their homework. I mean, that's the important thing to remember. So, you know, be prepared for that. Even if it's, you know, something very positive, like this. I mean, you know, and part of that is making sure that I'm prepared. So you gave me information so that I could read up about you and be able to ask those questions, you know, and so it's definitely this two-way street of being prepared to fulfill the goals that you have for, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Preparation is everything. You know, there's a reason why actors look so natural, and that's because they have prepared so much. Like, you know, it doesn't really,
I know,
people are scared sometimes.
How can you do that? Which, you know, when we mentioned that you do horror movies, now I'm like kind of alarmed.
I love it. I love it. And and I've just been talking about, oh no, it's not hiding behind the character, it's bringing out that. Yes, I act for horror films, and when I'm preparing for horror films, I bring out the darkness that's in myself.
Which everybody has.
We've all got darkness.
Be honest. You know, the nice, sweet old grandma still has, you know, she's got her mean side.
We've all got our darkness, and that's what I bring out, you know, and I tap into situations that have happened in my past, and I bring up that anger and, you know, depending on the role, the fear or whatever is needed for that particular role. So yeah, it's there's so much preparation required. So sometimes I've had people say that they don't like preparing before going into interviews because they want it to sound natural. Well, why does preparing mean it's not going to sound natural? It's like, imagine if Steven Spielberg just went on set and just say, hey, just do what you want today, we want it to look natural, you know.
Well, and even, you know, on movies and programs that are impromptu, you know, there's still preparation too.
Oh yes,
they have learned how to be able to take a word from the audience. You know, I'm thinking of like a comedy show, and so they take the word from the audience, but you know, they know how. First of all, they know how to think very quickly on their feet. I mean, that is probably one of the best skills that they have. Yeah. But then, you know, so it's not just that you're throwing the word out there for them. They're relying on their background, and I've had a couple guests on before who have said that preparing to be a public speaker, one of the best things that they've ever done is take impromptu classes.
Yes.
You never know when something
You
might
never
happen.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you need to be able to respond to, the spotlight falling or your presentation going
Yeah.
off, or, it's fire alarms. I've had fire. I had a heckler one time. I had
hecklers.
a LinkedIn presentation.
You're
Seriously.
kidding me.
No. I ended up asking him to leave. I mean, it was
Wow.
he was an unhappy man, but yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where, yeah, a heckler at a LinkedIn presentation, but I didn't let it rattle me. I
Good.
responded to him a couple of times, and then I finally said, "Sir, it's clear that this is not where you want to be." So we need to prepare ourselves to be impromptu, which sounds very funny, but yeah, there are those things. Well,
Oh,
gosh,
definitely.
Leanna, we are almost at the top of the hour. One of the things that you mentioned that I want to make sure we get in is that people need to publish, whether and let's, it can be something really, like blogs, but books, articles, things like that. And you actually work with people, ghostwriting, helping them write books, all those various things. So tell us just briefly a little bit about that, because people are like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do it, but
So I help people to either write books, so I'm with them throughout the full process, and then afterwards we get that book seen, we get it out there through different various medias. And books are really powerful for helping people to book more media, so they both link together. If you're wanting to be seen, if you're wanting to increase visibility, do both. Write a book and get into the media. And we help people to write and publish books, or we do the full thing for them. And we also do a done for you for media as well. So we're constantly pitching people for television, for radio, for podcasts such as this, newspapers, magazines, all the rest of it. And all of that is taken off their hands. And we even, have an option to ghostwrite all their articles and everything. So unless they want to, they don't have to do a thing, apart from turn up to their interviews. So, yeah.
And you've prepared them for the interviews.
Yes, we're there with them throughout the full process.
Right. I love that, because it is something, especially the thought of writing, and people are thinking, oh my gosh, I do have all this knowledge, I've got, whatever. But they're thinking, I'm horrible at grammar. Well, okay, that's what editors are for.
Exactly.
Or even just organizing their thoughts. And so getting started is one of the hardest parts, obviously, to do. So that's why I love that, you work with people, you interview them, and then you, as you said, it can be, you're just barely helping them, or you're doing a lot for them. But it is still their words. It's
always their words.
Yeah. It's not that they've bought a book.
No. Basically, we get on a call with them and we map out the book, and then we go through each and every step. We find out exactly what they want to say, and then we stalk them. We find out everything about them that we can, that's online. We go into depth, so that then we're writing in their voice. We're writing in their voice, and we're giving their information. We're just doing the sitting down and the writing part. It's all their own work.
Right. Yeah, because later on, when they're talking about it, it's got to be their own words.
It's got to be their own words. Exactly.
We don't want to go back to the deer in headlights where, somebody says, well, in this chapter on such and such, you said,
yeah,
I did.
Yeah. But we have comments sometimes, and it always makes me laugh, because people message us and they say, oh, you sound more like me than me.
Oh, I know. And it's funny, because I tell people sometimes you need other people to write stuff. I work with people on their LinkedIn profiles, and it's really hard to write about yourself.
It is.
In cases, it is much better to have, and that's why resume writing is out there. Because it's, and again, they're not lying about you. They're not embellishing even. But they, I had somebody write part of my LinkedIn profile, and I read it and thought, whoa, wow. It was all completely true.
Yeah.
But it wasn't written in a way that I would have definitely downplayed it. And I don't know how much of that is that women in many cases, especially women of my generation, do tend to downplay ourselves and our
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, you read it, it's like, wow, I really do sound pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't write my own bios or anything like that, but it makes me cringe. But then I can write for other people in a
Right.
flash, and I
Which is
can,
very
you know,
strange, but yeah, that's just
yeah.
the way it works. So cool.
Mm.
Well, Luana, tell people how they find you and how they connect with you online.
Awesome. Well, the easiest way to find me is Facebook. Come and join my group, Rockstar of Your Industry, and my profile, Luana Ribeira.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Well, do you have any final words for everyone?
Oh, I just want to say, you know, if you've got a message that you want to share with the world, enough with hiding. It's time for you to shine a light on that and for you to reach your people. Everybody on this earth has an important message to share, and there are people right there now waiting to hear that message from you specifically, because nobody else has got your exact experience, knowledge, outlook. Some people are out there right now waiting for you, and it's time for you to reach them.
Perfect. I love it. And your website is, I'm going to spell it out for folks. It's LuanaRibeira.com. So, you know, Luana, this has been absolutely delightful. I've loved getting to know you. Can't wait to chat with you again. Until then, I'm Deb Creer. I have been talking with Luana Riviera. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.